Now we will read Article 4. And what this Article 4 is talking about is that it is saying that the laws that are made under Article 2 and Article 3 are not to be considered as amendments of the Constitution under Article 368. So, as per Article 4, laws made under Article 2 and Article 3 are not to be considered as amendment to Constitution under Article 368. Now, if you want to amend the Constitution, then you have to amend the Constitution as per Article 368. That means you need special majority to amend the Constitution as per Article 368. But why the amendment to Constitution, this question is coming. Let's understand. Suppose there is a bill under Article 3. Now it is applicable to Article 2 also. I am taking an example under Article 3. A law was made under Article 3, and let's take, this was Andhra Pradesh Reorganization Act that was passed in 2014. This was passed under Article 3. As per this act, what happened? Bifurcation of the state Andhra Pradesh happened. One part was Andhra Pradesh and another one was Telangana. Okay. Now, let's consider before this law was passed. Before this law was passed, there was only one state, Andhra Pradesh. After this law was passed, now there is bifurcation of Andhra Pradesh into two, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. Now, you know, as per Article 1, we have already read this article. As per Article 1, when we are reading Article 1, we have mentioned about first schedule of Indian Constitution. Now, in first schedule, what is mentioned? In first schedule, the name of the states and union territories and the territories of states and union territories are mentioned. Now, when a new state, that is Telangana, is formed, then the name of the state is to be mentioned in first schedule. And also now, earlier there was only one state, Andhra Pradesh. Now, two states, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. So the territories also changed. Territories are also changed. So that changed territories has to be mentioned also in first schedule. That means when this law was passed under Article 3, when this law was passed, that means you have to do an amendment in the first schedule. That means you have to do an amendment in the Indian Constitution. Although the intention was not to amend this Constitution, intention was to bifurcate Andhra Pradesh. But in the process, you have to amend the Indian Constitution because you have to change the first schedule. This is one part. Then another thing, in Schedule 4 of Indian Constitution, allocation of seats in Rajya Sabha from each state and union territories is mentioned. So, allocation of seats in Rajya Sabha for each state and union territories are mentioned. Now, earlier when Andhra Pradesh was only there, then from the state of Andhra Pradesh, 18 seats were reserved for Andhra Pradesh to Rajya Sabha. Now, and this was mentioned in Schedule 4. But now the state has been bifurcated into Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. And now the scenario is that in Rajya Sabha there are 11 seats from Andhra Pradesh and 7 seats from Telangana in Rajya Sabha. That means you have to do a change, you have to do an amendment in Schedule 4 also. Because when you are doing the bifurcation, although your intention is not to change the Schedule 4, but you have to do it because there is a bifurcation. There will be allocation of seats in Rajya Sabha in case of Andhra Pradesh separately, in case of Telangana separately. That means in this process, when you are passing a law under Article 3, then you have to automatically change first schedule and also fourth schedule. That means although your intention is not to change the first or fourth schedule, but you have to do it. And that is why in Article 4 it is mentioned that this law can be passed by simple majority. That means laws under Article 2 and Article 3 you can pass it by simple majority. Although in that process you are amending the first schedule and fourth schedule of Indian Constitution, even in that case also you are passing the law by simple majority because your intention is not to amend the Constitution. In that process you are amending, that is incidental, that is consequential matter, but your intention is not to amend, and that is why this amendment to the Constitution is not regarded under Constitution under Article 368. That means you do not need special majority, you only need simple majority. So Article 4 is saying that whenever there has to be a law passed under Article 2 and Article 3, that can be passed by simple majority, and this will not be considered as amendment to Constitution under Article 368. So this is Article 4. Now we will read reorganization of states after we got independence. In 1950, the Constitution contained fourfold classification: Part A, B, C and Part D territories. Part A was Governor's Province, Part B was the Princely States, Part C was the Chief Commissioner's Province, and Part D there was only one territory, that is Andaman and Nicobar. So Part A was Governor's Province, Part B was Princely States, Part C consisting of Chief Commissioner's Province, and Part D only one territory, that is Andaman and Nicobar Island. Now when the princely state joined the Indian Union, it was purely a temporary arrangement. So there was a demand, especially from South India, to reorganize the state on the lines of language. That means there was a demand for reorganization of states on linguistic basis, on the lines of language. And in this regard, various committees, various commissions were formed. First, we will read Dhar Commission. It was headed by S.K. Dhar. This committee was formed in June 1948, and this committee submitted report in December 1948. And this committee recommended the reorganization of state on the basis of administrative convenience and not on the basis of language. So administrative convenience was the main factor for reorganization of state and not the language. This was the recommendation of Dhar Commission. So as the language was rejected as the basis of reorganization of state, protest again started. And hence, as a result, another committee that is named as JVP committee was formed. So JVP committee, J stands for Jawaharlal Nehru, V for Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, and P for Pattabi Sitaramaiah. This committee submitted the report in April 1949, and this committee, like Dhar committee, also suggested that administrative convenience should be the major factor for reorganization of state, and they also rejected language as the basis of reorganization of state. But then there was again protest. So then finally in October 1953, Government of India was forced to create the first linguistic state, that is the Andhra state. So as now one state has been created on the lines of language, then demands from other parts of India also started. So then what happened? This demand forced the government of India to appoint in December of 1953 a 3-member State Reorganization Commission which was headed by Fazl Ali. So State Reorganization Commission under the chairmanship of Fazl Ali. This was a 3-member committee. One was Fazl Ali, who was the head. Then another person was H.N. Kunjru and another person was K.M. Panikar. And this committee submitted the report in September 1955, and this committee broadly accepted language as the basis of reorganization of states. Government of India accepted the recommendation given by Fazl Ali Commission with certain modifications, and to implement the recommendation of Fazl Ali Commission, the State Reorganization Act 1956 was passed, and along with that 7th Constitutional Amendment Act 1956 was passed, and hence as a result the classification of states under part A, B, C, D was abolished, and in total 14 states and 6 union territories were created. But over the period of years, the political map of India has underwent continuous changes due to various reasons, due to protest, popular agitations, due to the political conditions, and currently India have 28 states and 8 union territories. Now we will read some new states and union territories that have been created after 1956. We will not read all but few. For example, in 1960, Bombay was bifurcated into two. One was Gujarat and another one was Maharashtra. So in 1960, Bombay was bifurcated into two, Gujarat and Maharashtra. Then in the year 1975, we have already read it, that Sikkim was conferred statehood. Then in 1987, Goa became a state. Then if you see in the year 2000, India got 3 new states in the form of Chhattisgarh, then Uttarakhand and Jharkhand. Now Chhattisgarh was carved out from Madhya Pradesh, Uttarakhand was carved out from Uttar Pradesh, and Jharkhand was carved out from Bihar. So in the year 2000, 3 new states were created: Chhattisgarh, Uttarakhand and Jharkhand. Then in the year 2014, Andhra Pradesh was bifurcated into two, Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. And then recently in 2019, the state of Jammu and Kashmir was bifurcated into 2 union territories. One is Jammu and Kashmir and another one is Ladakh. Then in 2020, 26th January, 2 union territories, that is Dadra and Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu, these two were merged into 1 union territory. So currently India has 28 states and 8 union territories. The names of some of the states and some of the union territories have also been changed over a period of years. Now we will read some of these change of names of states and union territories. For the very first time in 1950, United Province was renamed as Uttar Pradesh. Then if you see in 1969, Madras was renamed as Tamil Nadu. So in the year 1969, Madras was renamed as Tamil Nadu. Then in 1973, Mysore was renamed as Karnataka. Then if you see recently, then in 2006, Uttaranchal was renamed as Uttarakhand. Then Pondicherry was renamed as Puducherry. Then in 2011, Odisha was renamed as Odisha. Now we will discuss something very important. If you go through the newspaper, then you will come across some news over the period of years that, for example, the Gorkha land issue in West Bengal, the Bodoland issue in Assam, then the Coorg issue in Karnataka, and there are other issues as well. That is the Bundelkhand issue in UP. So when we see this kind of news, then a question comes whether there is a need to constitute second reorganization commission. Because if you see, when the first state reorganization commission was formed under the chairmanship of Fazl Ali, 14 states and 6 union territories were created. But now we have 28 states and 8 union territories. This has happened without a state reorganization commission being formed. And when there is a demand, when there is a rising demand, when, for example, the Gorkha land in West Bengal, the separate Bodo land in Assam, separate Coorg in Karnataka, when these kind of issues, the Bundelkhand issue in UP, when these kind of issues are coming frequently in news, when this kind of demand is rising, then why not to form a second reorganization commission? So government should think about forming a second reorganization commission. And this state reorganization commission should give guideline, should give recommendation to the government, and according to that guideline, when there will be a demand for a separate state, then whether that demand is a legitimate demand or not, whether that demand is practical or not, that can be very easily understood by the guideline of this State Reorganization Commission. If there is a guideline present, then any demand can be taken into consideration objectively, can be judged objectively without any bias, whether that demand is practically possible or not. So, under Part 1 of Indian Constitution, under Union and its territories, we have covered Article 1 to Article 4, and then we have also discussed about the reorganization of states.